So much of the writer journey is about identity. It's not actually about writing. I fought against the fear. I avoided the fear for a long time now. Those trauma patterns can carry down, but what's also incredible is we get to let them go.
You don't have to break your life apart for it to get better.
Even if one thing wasn't working, the universe was always dropping the breadcrumb to show me that next step.
Failure is part of the game. What is your story? The one that is residing deep within you, just waiting to be told for the world to read. In today's episode, you're going to hear from Vanessa Barrington about the healing power of telling and writing your story so that you can tap into your limitless potential, become a globally recognized leader, and truly heal not just yourself, but also generations past and future to come. Let's dive in. Welcome to Resonance, the podcast for high performers and entrepreneurs who want to do life, work, and success differently. I am your host, Viktoria Levenberg, and I am obsessed with efficiency, productivity, and planning in a way that harnesses your energy and your natural rhythms while keeping you in alignment and integrity. Because I have figured out that lasting success is not about the hustle. It is about being in resonance. Let's begin. Okay, so in this episode, you are going to hear from a really dear friend of mine and also an incredible entrepreneur, person who is in my business community. You know, that's how Vanessa and I met. And ever since I first heard her voice, I was like, ooh, I love her. Not just because she's in Australia and, you know, like as a fellow Kiwi, it's always really cool to have someone that's kind of close to where you are be in your world. But there was a lot of resonance between the two of us energetically with our life stories. And actually, the more I heard her share her story on Resonance today, the more it made so much sense as to why the universe brought us together. And if you're the type of person who has been through a lot in life, you know, you've gone through maybe some times of hardship, some times of greatness, and you have a story to tell. In fact, I believe that every single one of you listening right now has a story to tell because there's only one you in the world. You're really going to love what Vanessa has got to share because there's such a healing part to storytelling that goes beyond just your immediate lived experience that maybe you may not have recognized until after you listen to this episode. And, you know, Vanessa is the perfect person to bring this to life because, you know, we're here, our high achievers, corporate peeps, wherever in the world you might be, you will definitely see a part of you in Vanessa's story because she also started off, you know, doing the high achiever corporate gig. And then all of a sudden, after doing that for however many years, life gave her a couple of whispers that nudged her in a different direction. And so she went and started her own business in marketing and entrepreneurship. She then ventured out of that and into starting her own publishing house and becoming a book doula. So she is honestly such an incredible, multifaceted person who's got so much wisdom to share through both her story and also the guidance and the ability for you to tap into yours. So make sure that you tune in because by the end of this episode, you will know exactly how to tap into the power of your story that is residing deep within you so that you can leave your legacy. You can become a globally recognized leader and you can heal not just your own, but also your ancestral generational trauma, both past and future. Let's dive in. Welcome to Resonance. Vanessa, I'm so grateful that you are here. Honestly, I love your energy. I know we were speaking about energy just before. It's a pleasure to have you.
Thank you so much for having me here. I'm so excited to connect with your beautiful people and also to be in your beautiful energy as well, Vic. Oh, so good. So good.
Yay. And we get to ripple and spread that out. And so, you know, speaking of bringing you to my amazing people, may you introduce yourself and share a little bit about where you're from, your background, and what brought you here today.
Absolutely. So Vanessa is my name. I am otherwise known as a book doula. So essentially I guide people really through the process of how to write and sell and publish and birth their books out into the world. I'm also the publisher for Healing House Publishing, and I'm really my soul contract, I suppose, or what I'm here to do in this lifetime is to help create legacy through books, which really live beyond lifetimes, and to heal humanity through stories. I think stories have always connected communities, and they have the ability to inspire us and help us know ourselves and help us connect with others and help others on their journey. So I'm also a psychic medium and a channel, and I work with that gift with my book birthing. So
I love that. And, storytelling is really how we used to communicate. That is how we used to learn, how we used to pass on wisdom back in the day before we had the traditional kind of, 3D matrix school model. And the fact that you are reconnecting people with that gift to tell their own story and to channel or share whatever wisdom that they have their unique access to is, as you say, a way of healing collectively. So you do such important work. And as someone who has a lot of books in her, I'm like, don't you worry, I'm eyeing you up. The time will come. I've already noted, write the memoir first. And we'll get to that in just a moment. But before we get into a little bit more of your story, I have this question that I love to ask every guest that comes on the show before they share more about themselves is like, what is something about you that you wouldn't find in your official bio? So like, unless someone listened to this specific episode, they wouldn't know this about Vanessa.
Oh, I love this question. I love it. I'm going to share something that I was talking about just a couple of days ago that nobody would really necessarily read about me online. So the people that come into my world are usually of a soul contractual understanding that they are going to break a cycle of generational trauma. And so when I work with people with the gifts and with helping them unlock those stories, we are actually completing an ancestral healing, and it's a lineage line that occurs for many past lives or past generations of that lineage and the ancestors in it. So I don't necessarily ever talk about that. It's not in my bio, but I love the name of your podcast because to me, resonance allows those perfect individuals to come into my world who know on that, like in the higher mind or that higher level, it ends with me sort of thing. Like this is part of my completion and healing for not just me, but everyone before me.
Yes. And I'm getting goosebumps as you keep sharing. So I think here you've got like, these two gifted individuals. We're all gifted, but these two tapped in individuals on a podcast that will probably, I'm very curious. I definitely encourage you to name anything that comes up as well. And we can see kind of what's coming through. And I guess, for the listeners who might not yet be very much deeply in this spiritual world, I have a breadth of people here listening to Resonance, some who are very much early on in their journey. Would you be able to share a little bit more about, what being a book doula and a psychic medium in the channel really means and looks like?
There's kind of a couple of different ways that people work with me. I guess with the publisher hat on, people come to me once they've written the book, and they will submit their manuscript. They've written the book, and oftentimes once a writer gets to that stage, it's kind of like they've poured their heart out and soul onto a Word document or Google Doc, and it's like, okay, so now what do I do? Like, how do I actually get this out into the world? And so my team and I help take that and translate that and do the book design. And I don't personally do the book design, but my team helps do the book design and cover design. I do the editing and really hold that person through that birthing canal, I suppose, to get the book out into the world, guide them and coach them on how to promote their book launches, all that kind of jazz. And then on the other side with my Book Doula brand, people who come into my world in that way and what I do day to day there is really serving them through my online program. And so the way in which I do that is a combination of coaching, subconscious reprogramming, channeled information, and really helping shift any sort of limiting beliefs or blocks or traumas that are preventing them from sharing their authentic voice. Because so much of the writer journey is about identity. It's not actually about writing. So we all know generally how to write. If a writer comes into my world, they know how to write. It's all the other BS that's kind of standing in the way from them doing the writing. So a lot of the work that I do is around, okay, how can we be in the identity of an author? And what I find the paradox in this space is that, and I'm a writer myself, and so I'm a journalist by trade, and I feel very deeply, and you witnessed this recently in the States with my own journey of like being visible. Like visibility is what I coach and guide people on, and it's been one of the hardest things for me to reconcile in myself as well. And that's what I really notice in a lot of the people that find me. So coaching is a big part of that, and then also like teaching people the practical elements of writing as well. I think for anyone that's kind of ever like looked into writing a book, if any of your audience were like looking in that space, I think what I'm quite different on from other book coaches is I care less about your grammar and your spelling and the technical aspects of writing. And I actually find sometimes the more people know about that, the more it can trip them up. So I really like to pair it right back to what is your voice? Like I heard this beautiful quote last week, and it was, instead of what are you wanting to create in your life, what is life asking to create through you? And that is really the essence of what I'm trying to do with people. So
and that, plus the ability to tap into, as you mentioned, some of the higher subconscious pieces and the channeled guidance is really, it really does set you apart. Because when you mentioned the grammar and the sentence structure, like that's where we get so stuck in our 3D mind and writer's block. Like that's, I almost think, like in my humble opinion, that's literally what writer's block is. It's like you're too much in your head rather than just letting the writing happen without kind of overthinking it. And it's just so juicy. And tell me more about the piece around ancestral lineage clearing and sort of the soul contract of this is it ends with me, as a fellow person who has declared this as well in this lifetime. Tell us a little bit more about that.
Well, that explains why we're in each other's field, Vic.
It does.
I love it. I love it. So when I'm working with a client, I tune into the energy of what the completed book is asking for. And oftentimes, especially when I'm doing structural editing for a client, their ancestors will actually come in and they will share very specific information about areas and aspects that have been written where maybe the writer is avoiding going into something, or they need to talk more about this, or they might come in and actually share information of things that have happened in the past that writer has no conscious awareness of, that is asking to be born through that particular book. So it is quite esoteric, but it also translates in a very practical sense. Do you know what I mean? Like, I can kind of, and I joke with my writers, I'm like, I can see what you're saying and what you're not saying. And what I observe is with the ancestors that come in, like they are just so wanting to support that work to be birthed, because it's so incredibly transformational for the individual. But it also then, like, if you think about books that have changed your life, like that gives me goosebumps. That's what gets me out of bed. Like I love my writers, but what I care more about is how the books then go on to change people's lives. Like that's what gets me out of bed. So yeah, I don't know if I answered your question. Sorry.
You definitely did. And I've got like so many, we mentioned the little popcorn metaphor earlier, so many popcorns popping at the moment, like so many little areas where I want to go to. And the first one that I want to briefly speak to is the ancestors speaking to you through the written word. Like, anyone listening who might be like, whoa, this is a lot. Yes, it is. But the reality is we carry our ancestors' memory in our physical body. You know, there are studies that have been done epigenetically that show that we go 7 generations back and 7 generations forward. And then you've got your past life and whatever additional karmic and societal imprints. And I just wanted to share like a little personal nugget from what's happening in my life right now, which is I practice a lot of like tantric yogic teachings, and I've recently restarted a ancestral karma prostrations practice, which is like an ancient yogic practice, and you literally take the karma of your ancestors and sort of move it through you and pass it on to, you know, the higher realms for clearing. And it's quite often, as I've heard from my Tantra teacher and other people going through this, is like when you start doing this practice, things start to come up in your life, whether it's through, obviously, right? Whether it's through like ancestral journeys, etc., etc. And one of the things that came up, like little, this is super fresh, it's like today, yesterday, is this feeling of, I want to go home. And I used to have this feeling like a lot in my younger years, even when I was home. And my 3D conscious mind tried to justify it, making it mean that it was like because I moved countries or whatever. It's like, oh, well, I'm homesick, but it's like I would be home. Where's home? But then I was like, hang on, like, why is it that now, like 2-3 decades later, this feeling's coming back and it's coinciding with this ancestral karma prostrations practice? And then it dropped in like, oh my God, there was so much displacement in my lineage with like Jewish heritage, which, as we know, like the Jews specifically were just like constantly, etc., etc. And so there might be stories in your lineage, my lineage, anyone who's publishing a book that aren't even necessarily your current lived experience that are somehow unconsciously coming through.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but I just like my guide, when I start getting like the hits, I just have to share it. So I feel and would love to share with you with your permission.
Yeah.
Can I share what's,
Go for it. Yes.
Okay, beautiful. So 100% exactly what you're feeling is totally what I'm receiving a confirmation on is exactly it. And, you know, I love what you say around the epigenetics and that sort of thing, because that's an area, you know, this gift just arrived in my world a few years ago. I didn't study. I don't have any certifications in this area. I'm always at pains to say to my writers, I'm not a psychotherapist, I'm not a counselor, but so I encourage people to work with me with those support mechanisms. But the more I start to learn about some of those things, science is proving and catching up with, I think, that knowledge that we didn't have an awareness of. Yes, to the Jewish connection for you. And also, like, I think, it's really interesting that you shared that, because do you mind if I share a story about something really similar?
Please.
Okay. So I was sharing with you before we hit record, I've just started working with an incredible shaman, and part of that work, it happens in the dream time. So there's a lot of clearing and a lot of processing that we do in our sleep, right? Because when we go to sleep at night, we finally relax, our nervous system gets to just chill. And that's where we get a lot of downloads and information. And I don't normally remember my dreams unless I'm receiving a prediction about something that's going to happen in my life. I had an experience about 4 weeks ago where I had 2 very significant and very clear dreams. And in the first dream, I was with my father on a bike, and we were with my father on a bike, and we were going to try and save a cousin of mine who was facing domestic violence. And in that dream, all of my ancestors came into the room. And what they showed me and they confirmed with me, which I'd never considered in my life, every single one of the people on my father's side, my father's born in Ireland, so I have an Irish heritage. have married or connected or been touched by and needed to heal someone with domestic violence or sexual abuse. And then on my mother's side, now my parents are no longer together, but my mum was married before my father, and that man was physically abusive to my mother. And I had a dream 2 nights after that dream where I was in fact with my mother, and we were trying to save another relative from domestic violence, and we were facing domestic violence. And I just knew in the processing of the dream time of what was going on then, it's like I'd never known this consciously. Like I knew about immediate relatives, but I never knew this. And I was shown, yes, that those trauma patterns can carry down. But what's also incredible is we get to let them go. We don't have, they're not always ours to carry, you know. Everything in life is choice, isn't it?
Yes, that's it. And it's not just sorry.
That's it. Yeah, no,
okay.
Totally. Yeah.
It's not just the trauma patterns that we carry. I think, especially in the healing world, we tend to focus on that quite a lot. But I also do want to recognize that we also carry the strength and the positive experiences and the amazing things that, you know, our ancestors have been through. And so in those times of need, we get to rely on them and ask them for guidance as well. Like just as much as we get to let go of what's been holding them down, we get to leverage and help ourselves be propped up by whatever helped them on their path. And like it could be like really big, or it could be something as silly as just before we went to the US, I was at a retreat and I had to carry my suitcase up a really steep hill, and I was getting to like the point where my hand wanted to let go of the suitcase, but I really just wanted to get to the car, and I was like, all right, called in on my ancestors, and I could just feel them pushing me up the hill. I was like, thank you. You're the best.
I love it. Yes.
So you mentioned just before that, you know, it's only been a few years since you started tapping into these gifts. And so I would really love to hear a little bit more of your story. You know, you said you're a journalist by trade and kind of you've got your publishing house and then you've got this book doula thing. Like what's the red thread that weaves it all together? I can hear that there's a story there.
Well, you know, I love a story, Vic. So yes, there definitely is. And I know with your audience as well, a lot of them are kind of maybe in that corporate world or coming out of that corporate world, right? So I'm 41 years old, and I've been obsessed with stories since I was a little girl, but I knew I wanted to be a journalist at 10. I went on, I did the degree, I majored in creative writing, I worked in radio and TV in my early years, and then I kind of jumped to the dark side, as we call it, in media, and we moved into public relations, communications, marketing, that kind of thing. I really sold my soul in corporate for 10 years, and I climbed the ladder. I was very much, and, you know, have that A-type personality, which entrepreneurs love. I got to, you know, have an amazing, like build a high performing team. I was traveling every second week, had the big 6-figure job, and I woke up at 31, I think I just turned 31, and I was bitterly unhappy. And I disconnected from my writing. I disconnected from my creativity, and I'd been storytelling for global brands, but it wasn't lighting me up. And so I walked away. And I initially chose a copyright, like I set up a marketing consultancy, right? Because I'd always been a writer, that felt safe. I was still kind of negotiating with my worth a little bit, to be honest, looking back, about, you know, I'll pick the safe path. I'm going to be a consultant. And I did that for a few years. But the minute I put the shingle out and set my business up, the books just started arriving.
Wow.
As if by destiny. And one arrived, then another arrived. And I really honestly tried to resist that path a lot at the beginning, because I was still in my kind of self-worth story. And about, so what are we now? In 2023, I was editing a client's book, he'd come into my world, and all the clients that come into my world, usually there's like some kind of a trauma thread that's a little bit obvious that they've healed, or they're a healer, or that, you know, a lot of memoir writers. I work across all genres, a lot of memoir. And this guy was like this really cool Dutch guy that used to be a CFO, came to Australia, kind of like there was no trauma, right? It was like a family biography he was writing, and very practical kind of guy. And I was like, I just can't understand why he's come into my world. Anyway, after a couple of months together, he revealed his son had actually suicided. And I would have been the same age as his son, right? And so I work with clients all around the world. This guy happened to be living in the Gold Coast, where I was at the time, here in Australia. And you know, every few weeks we'd meet, and I'd be like, Jerry, to my client, have you written about Brad, your son? Now, Jerry had gone back 100 years in his history and written every chapter except about Brad, right? So we had a lot of conversations. It was the last chapter he finally wrote. Once he finally wrote it, he handed over the manuscript to me to edit it. And I'll never forget, I was sitting on my balcony. I'm doing the edit. I'm old school. Like, I print off the manuscript.
Oh, I love that so much.
Marking up the changes. I'm sitting on my balcony, and all of a sudden I receive full body goosebumps down the right-hand side of my body, head to toe. And I hear a voice, a man's voice, say, pick up a pen and paper. So I pick up this pen and paper, and I feel this presence next to me. And all of a sudden, this voice just starts speaking very quickly and just saying all of these things that were missing in the book. So he's like, he didn't write about all the charity work he does. He hasn't talked about suicide prevention. He hasn't talked about this particular business deal that fell over, like blah, blah. It went on for about 10 minutes, 15 minutes. And I'm just writing furiously. Like, I just knew, even though nothing like that had ever happened before, I knew I just had to write down what was being told. And when it finished, I was kind of like, what just happened? I go into my husband, who's super not woo-woo, like very practical guy. My beautiful husband, Nick. And he's like, are you okay? And I'm like, I don't know what just happened. And he goes, what do you mean? And I said, I think Brad just came through, Jerry's son. And he was just like, what? Anyway, I was meeting with this client the next day, and I said, what am I going to do? Like, this guy's the next chief financial officer. He's like the most non-woo-woo, awesome, practical kind of accountant type that you've ever met. He's going to think I'm freaking nuts. Anyway, we meet. I slip the piece of paper across the table because he's like, oh, what do you think of the manuscript? He's like, I bet you think do you think it was terrible? You know, because everyone's
he's done his stuff. And
I'm like, Jerry, it's great, but there's some things missing. And I slide the piece of paper across, and I'm like, does any of this make sense? And he reads what I've written. Now, there was no way I could have known this info. He couldn't have Googled it. Like, he'd never revealed it. And he just looked at me and he goes, how did you know? And I was like,
wow.
I think it was Brad. And he just goes, Brad. And we just like had this moment. And then he goes to me, oh, this must happen to you all the time. And I was like, no, not like this. And so that was how my psychic gift opened up. And from there, it just opened. So yes, it was a very strange experience. I had been seeing like a spiritual healer for 20 years before that. And I think she must have known on some level this was going to open up one day, because I was really able to go to her and be like, what is going on? Can you help me understand what is happening here? Because I didn't talk to dead people, and now I do. This is a bit strange. Like,
especially when it's your first time. It's like, what is going on?
Yes.
Wow. And I got really emotional as you told this story, because as you were telling the story, I could feel the goosebumps down the right side of my body. And there was just like, it was almost like transported back to that moment where for the first time you got to speak the truth that for years or decades was remained untold, or help someone else voice that on behalf of their ancestors or their loved ones who are no longer here. And how did you then navigate the intricate balance of this gift and then also being in this 3D reality? Because like you said, you know, you just come out of this corporate job, you kind of made your way into your publishing business, you're hanging out with the CFO. Like, how did you reconcile those two parts of yourself? I'm sure that was a bit of a journey.
It was because, so at that stage, I didn't have the publishing house. So I was really helping people to self-publish. Okay. I had my Book Doula program, but I had not received the information to open Healing House Publishing. And that actually came a short time later. So that was also another really interesting moment, because at that point, when that happened, I didn't tell it, like I wasn't posting that on LinkedIn, right? Like I was like, people are gonna think I'm crazy, like she's left this, you know, whatever.
Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry about that. Did you hear that?
Yes.
I think that was just a fire alarm test.
Oh my God.
I think it was an error. Oh my gosh, I apologize about that. That's okay. We'll leave it for impact. Clearly, the alarm bells were ringing.
Totally. And so anyway, so I guess at the beginning, I felt really curious about the gift, and it was like something I really wanted to test and like confirm and reach for. And you know, my spiritual mentor said to me in the beginning, and that's why I was so grateful to be able to work with her, because she helped me really understand boundaries, energetic boundaries. Like, so I'm not like walking around picking up other people's juju, and also help me understand some of the rules, I guess, for lack of a better word, around integrity with all of that. But about a year later, I was sitting in meditation, and my guide, Adrian, came in. So by this stage, I'd gone to her and I'm like, what is this voice? Who is this voice? Like, my human brain wanted to work out, who is this guy? I experience him as like South American or something. And she said to me, this voice comes from the essence of nature. It's an earth-based knowledge and wisdom. But she said, you'll work with this gift publicly, and therefore, like, yeah, you can, because I was like, he needs a name. Like, what's his name? And she's like, well, what do you experience the voice as? And I said, you know, it's like a guy, and I feel like he's a bit South American. He's older. Like, I can visualize him. And she said, well, what do you think his name is? And I'm like, well, why can't he just tell me? And she's like, just give him a name. And the name that popped into my head was Adrian. So, but Adrian really is, he's earth energy, I guess. I know that's very esoteric, but so she helped me to kind of understand how to connect with him and trust what I heard and get out of my way a lot. Then in meditation, a year later, I got a download, and he came in and was like, you have been avoiding stepping in as a publisher for some time now. By this stage, I'd been birthing books for 6 years after corporate life.
Wow.
And I wasn't telling anyone about it, Vic. It was like, I've still had a marketing business and I was doing Book Doula, but I was really just not owning Book Doula. Like, I was
it was like a Book Doula speakeasy.
Yeah. And this is where, when you ask the question, I know it's a bit of a long-winded answer, but when, you know, how did I reconcile the corporate transition? I didn't until this point. I was really still running a marketing business. I was consulting to large banks part-time to supplement my income. I was a very successful change and communications expert. So I was leading like whole-scale transformations, like charging an exorbitant day rate and doing great work there while I built my book business, but not telling anyone about it, right? I was kind of just mucking around the edges. And in this meditation, he's like, you've basically like been avoiding this and you've been self-publishing. It's time for you to step in. And he gave me the words healing house. He showed me a physical property that will be like a center one day for people to come and write. And it was like global level Hay House sized publishing house, like full body goosebumps.
Yeah.
I was showing the vision. I was like, I came out of that meditation and was like, healing house. What an incredible name. What an incredible vision. I was so lit up and excited. And then I Googled the name. I was like, that's not going to be available. Yes, it was globally. So I like registered the name, did all of that. But I was still clinging to my marketing business. The marketing business was like my safety net for corporate world. And then I had a really strange series of events in about 4 months after that, right? Because I was like, yeah, I'm going to launch this publishing house. I start planning it, but I'm holding on to the marketing business. Then I start getting all these dreams about snakes. I have a snake turn up down the side of my house. I almost step on a snake walking the dog. I have snakes on the beach, like snakes everywhere. Now, if anyone that's into animal medicine is like, a snake is symbol of transformation, right?
Time to shed some skin, my love.
And that was it. He like literally was saying to me, shed the skin, shed the skin. I had conversations with people who were like, why do you have the Right Remark marketing business and then your books? And like, it's a bit confusing. I don't know what you do. How do I describe what you do? You do all of these things. So literally 2 days before I was due to open the publishing house, this happened, the snakes and everything. And I just woke up like on that weekend, I think it was a Sunday, and I turned to my husband and I said, I've got to close the marketing business. And he goes, what do you mean? Like, I thought you were going to announce that in January. This is in September of 2023, I think it was. And I'm like, no, I have to close it now before I launch the publishing house. Now that was 70% of my revenue.
If you're enjoying this episode, you will love my free newsletter, Flourish Weekly. It is an email that you actually want to read, and you will be the first to hear about new offerings, events, and upcoming episodes of Resonance. The link will be in the show notes below, and you can also sign up through my website, ViktoriaLevenberg.com, or by heading to the link in my bio on Instagram at Viktoria Levenberg. Now, let's get back to the episode.
I have
Speaking
two
of taking a big leap.
Well, that was the second one. I've got 2 kids. I've got 2 daughters, and I'm the main income earner. So like that was massive. I mean, walking away from corporate was massive. Then setting up the marketing business was massive. Then being asked, and very much like by this stage, I had learned to trust that voice. That voice was not steering me wrong. But it was terrifying. So I closed the marketing business and fully stepped into my dharma and my purpose. And that's kind of how all that came to be. So, yeah. So, I mean, when you invited me onto this podcast, Vic, I was just like, if I can help one person that's considering taking that leap, because I really don't believe that you get that nudge to walk away from the box, so to speak.
That's it. The box,
the constriction, and for me personally, like I did amazing work in these organizations. And you know what? I had a friend who passed away who I used to report to in one of those jobs. She got cancer. She got breast cancer, and she ended up dying. And I remember having a conversation with her, and she was like, I brought cancer into my life as a result of the work I did in corporate.
Yeah.
And that's potentially a triggering conversation for some people. But like when we are negotiating with our well-being, and that's why I love what you do, and it's so important, like, man.
I know.
Like, people just take the leap. You will be supported. Like, and every step of the way I've been support. Like I'm not special. We all are supported all the time.
We're all special. We're all special. We all get to take the leap. And everything you've just said, I don't know if you know this, but I still have one toe dipped into the corporate world as I kind of navigate the transition of, income moving into my business. And it's really interesting because I almost see it like as a little safari expedition, and I get to like observe all of my people who are there. And I'm like, hey, we're all just playing this game, you know, putting on fancy suits and using fancy words when in reality we're all just like, someone see me, someone help me. Um,
Mm.
and B, it's a box that is self-constructed, that, you know, you don't have to break your life apart for it to get better. Like, you
No.
get to start making change even when you're there. Even if, let's say, someone, you know, hearing your story is like, oh my gosh, you know, I can hear all the limiting beliefs coming up already. It's like, I could never do what Vanessa's doing. It's like, blah, 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 I got bills to pay and kids, just as you did. Okay, cool. Well, like, how about just dialing things back a little bit first and
Yeah.
taking a gradual step? Because that's kind of what you did as well, right? You were in corporate, and then, as you said, the marketing firm was that safety net, which played its role because it kind of was the transition point, so to speak, for you between one and the other. And how did you, you said it was terrifying. How did you work with the fear and move through?
Oh, that's such a big question. I love this question. I fought against the fear. I avoided the fear for a long time now. How I moved through the fear. I think what helped me was I had to learn to get comfortable with perceived failure. And
Yes.
I really had to allow myself to be in the process of figuring it out. And that
Mm.
was really what was so powerful for me when I found our coach, James, because, you know, even though I was kind of a bit like, I've got a marketing background,
Mm-hmm.
I was a bit initially when I came across him online, I was like, what are you going to teach me about marketing? And you know,
Sorry.
right? I know. I was so in my ego and like, and it was like, oh, you're going to show me how to rewrite my whole identity. Got it. So
Mm-hmm.
I really, you know, and that wasn't an overnight process. I was
No.
so in my BS. And it really, for me, was really, I had to just lean into getting okay with not having all the answers and recognize that every time I stumbled or every time I tried to put something out there and nobody bought, or I had a launch where no one showed up, or I delivered a webinar for 0 people, that
Mm-hmm.
I knew on some level that I was being called to this work, because even if one thing wasn't working, the universe was always dropping the breadcrumb to
Mm-hmm.
show me that next step. So,
Mm-hmm.
but you know, my relationship with fear is different, I guess, because to me, it's just become a signal of, oh, this is my next expansion. This is my next part of my growth. Now, that
Yeah.
doesn't mean I don't negotiate. Like, I still totally negotiate with it. Like, I'm a human. Like, I haven't got it all nailed, right? We all feel
Yeah.
fear. But
Yeah.
I have an awareness of it, I guess, now where I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, shit. Okay. I got to do that
Mm-hmm.
now. Like, just lean in.
That's
So,
it. Just lean in. And that's, you know, the secret is you know, I specifically tried to avoid the language of like overcoming the fear, because I genuinely believe that we don't ever really overcome the fear. It's just we get comfortable with it being there, and we learn how to work with it and use it as information. Because, to be honest, fear is just any other emotion. And what is emotion but energy and motion? It is our body, mind, spirit trying to
mm,
tell us something. And your fear shows up for different reasons. It could be because you're threatened and in survival mode. It could be because something's totally unfamiliar and feels like it's going to
mm,
be the next expansion that is a bit edgy. And it could also be just because something's really important to you and you really care. And you want to quote unquote get it right, even
yes.
though perfection is an illusion, which
Yes. Yes.
And so may every type A high performer, high achiever, whether you're an entrepreneur, whether you're in corporate, wherever you are, hear this is failure is part of the game. We're all making ish up as we go. We're all just trying to do our best. Even, I think that's what the paradigm shift was for me. It's like, as I was sitting around these big boardroom tables with, all these guys calling the big shots, I started to zoom out a little bit and see like, we're all just making things up here. We're all just doing our best. And some people are more comfortable with more responsibility. But that doesn't make them any more or less worthy as a human. We all have something special to bring to the table. We all deserve a seat at the big table.
Totally. Yes. Yes. Totally. Yes.
And I would love for you to share. You spoke earlier about, you've always been really into storytelling and writing, and you had a lot of books come through. And, part of why you get up every day is that it's this mission of helping someone else bring a story forward that has the power to change someone else's life. And a question that I wrote down earlier, because like, oh my God, I would be so curious, the Book Doula. What's the book that changed your life?
Oh, it's the one I'm writing.
Tell me more.
Oh man. So
if you want to.
Oh yeah, look, totally. I'm really happy to share, and I am an open book, pun intended. So
how many times have you used that one in your webinar?
Never.
There you go. $1 million messaging right there.
So I often say to clients, and this is actually a Seth Godin quote, the most powerful book that you'll ever read is the one you write yourself. And I started writing a memoir probably about 2 years ago, and it led me on the most fantastic, incredible healing journey. I mean, I've been on a massive journey for 41 years, but allowing me to really connect the dots for myself around my relationship with creativity. And it has been a phenomenal process. So I'm still in the writing stage, but I can tell you high level, the book is essentially about my life story. So how did I how did I become the Book Doula? How did I was the kid at 3 years old that was obsessed with stories. I was obsessed with The Wizard of Oz. Speaking about home, I love that story and still do. And so it's really a book about a journey back to self-worth and self-love, and how my relationship with my family and specifically my father and creativity has been formed in this lifetime. So yeah, that is the book that has most changed my life.
Wow. And I love that quote that you shared by Seth Godin, is that the most powerful book you'll ever read is the one you write yourself, right? Because I overheard you giving advice to a friend when we were together in the States around, the first book that you write being a memoir. And would you be able to give any advice to anyone out there who might be a little bit intrigued and is like, hey, I want to give this a try. Where would you start? What would you do? Because it's the idea of writing a book can feel so overwhelming, and you've got this, blank page and the cursor flickering, and you're just like, what do I do? Where would you start if you were a complete beginner to writing?
I love this question. And I think that the first thing I would say to someone that was considering doing that is there is no right or wrong way to start. And most people don't start out going, yeah, I'm going to write a book. They just, creativity is a curiosity, and we are all incredible creators. We're powerful creators. And so just arriving at the page and allowing what wants to come through is a powerful practice. And so much of what takes up a lot of headspace and creates a lot of noise and really steals a lot of personal power for creatives is all the avoiding doing the thing. So being in the practice of showing up at the page and allowing whatever needs to come imperfectly is a really great muscle to flex to start with. And then I think, you know, if someone is kind of sitting with an idea and has the bones or the beginnings of an idea, like really spending time either working with someone like me or like tuning into getting an understanding of how to create a structure for the book, because a lot of creatives resist structure, but in fact structure is creative freedom. Like structure is like the thing that gives us what to fall back on, so there is no writer's block anymore. There's no figuring it out. Once you've got a good structure, it's like, oh, that's what I do next. So
that's it. You're talking my language there as well. I'm like, structure is so sexy.
yeah.
Like I love me a good plan, because then you're just like, I can just melt into this and not worry about having it all in my head.
Exactly.
So it's just do it, right? Is sort of the message I'm hearing you say. And it all comes back to this core pattern of acknowledging that you are enough, acknowledging that you are good enough. And failure is part of the process, because perfection is an illusion. And to be honest, so is failure, because failure is only the noise that's in your head as you're doing the thing, right? Like I've been playing with something lately where there ain't nothing that gonna get you more in your noise than writing copy for your business.
So true.
And so I've been starting to trick my little ego. And whenever I feel that coming in, I'll just pretend I'm writing for someone else, or just like totally be like, oh, whatever, I'm just going to keep typing and see what comes through. And then all of a sudden it's sort of, it happens. It's there. And you're like, oh, I did the thing. And it was easier and so much more fun and so much more enjoyable when I let go of the end results. And look, we're all human. We're still going to have our little human moments, and things are going to get a bit messy. And then we just come back to the truth. And that's where people like you are super helpful, to be a trusted, supportive, loving, nurturing guide along that journey.
I love it. Like 3-year-old me cannot believe I get to do this for a job, like, because it's not a job for me at all. I'm like, how am I getting paid to read books, you know, and help people do this work? Is just, and seeing the women and the men that I support step into their leadership and like change the world is just, I just cannot, like,
yeah. I can see the life force that it gives you. And you know what, like seeing you be so in your dharma and in your purpose, like lights me up so much, because like that is such a huge part of the work that I do with people is, you know, often the reason we're burning out and we're so miserable is because we're living someone else's dream or society's or what we've been told to do. And yet people don't realize that as soon as you start walking your path, it all unfolds. Because it, of course, like, I think of it, you know, if we were to use a metaphor and you're like in the forest and you're trying to walk off the beaten path and you've got all the bushes kind of scratching you, and then you kind of walking into a, I don't know, swamp, and it's just all really hard and life's just trying to nudge you back on the path. You can keep going through the swamps. It's going to be really freaking hard, or you can find your way back to the path and be like, oh, it's so gorgeous here and it's so easy, and look at all these things I get to, and yep, there's that swamp and I can see it over there, but I don't need to go there. That's someone else's amazing place to reside, like a hippopotamus. I don't know.
Well, and also sometimes when you're in that sludge, you get to look back, if you connect with that future part of you that's living that life that you're dreaming of secretly inside, and go, oh my gosh, it was all perfect. It was all perfectly designed. And I just didn't know, because that's the experience that we have on the other side of it, isn't it?
That's it. You meet the right people. you have the right learnings. Like I am so, so grateful, you know, for my time at corporate. And I'm also grateful to be there now, you know, because it's enabling me to do what I'm doing. And I know that that time, you know, will come to an end at some point. And a lot of the lessons, experiences, and the people that I've met, I met my partner at my job. You know, so it's like,
Oh,
it's,
yeah,
yeah, it's like it all comes together.
absolutely. And I could never have done or do what I do if I hadn't worked and done all of those, like, you know,
Mm.
working as a book publisher that has brand strategy and public relations and like all these different skills and all these different
Mhm.
jobs that I had in my 20s, like
Mhm.
that it was all perfect. It was all
Yes.
perfect. So
Yes.
yeah.
And so let that be like a little beacon of hope to anyone who right now, to your point, is in the sludge and things feel really hard and they seem like there's just no light at the end of the tunnel. It's like, it's hard right now for a reason. Listen to what it's trying to tell you, and also see if you can zoom out and see the bigger picture. And 10, 20,
Yeah.
30, 40 years from now, what will this mean? We'll find out.
Yeah. I love it. I love it.
And so the signature question that I love to kind of bring things full circle is, if there was just one thing that resonated with the listeners long after the episode ends, what do you wish that one thing would be?
Just be you. Just
Mm,
be you. And just know that who you are is enough.
mm, yeah, yeah.
More than enough, actually.
Hmm. Mm.
Limitless
Hmm.
potential, actually.
You know what's so funny? It's like you're like the third person on the podcast to say this exact phrase, limitless potential. It
Mm.
seems to be a really recurring theme at the moment. So there's someone listening to the episodes that are like coming up time and time again. They're like, just own your limitless potential. Hey, I trust that for some reason this sentence is coming through multiple times. Let it be the time that it lands.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I
Wow.
think, it's like what we heard when we're in the US. If you
Mm.
hear something once, pay
Hmm.
attention. If you hear it again, pay attention and take action. Don't wait for the boulder.
That's it. That's it.
Mm.
And yeah, you are perfect just by being. I literally was teaching a yoga class this morning and the theme was being. You know, we're so used to doing, yet the essence of a human being is to just be. And
Mhm.
it might be uncomfortable to just be. Yet that is our essence. Like, you know, you've got kids and you probably remember when they were little babies and they were just so perfect and they didn't need to do anything. They were just being. And like that's how I feel about my pet, you know, my dog. She's so cute. I'm like, I just love you so much. You don't need to do anything. Just be here and love me. And that's what we're here for. That's our true essence.
Mm.
And you help people tap back into that essence. And so if someone wants to work with you, if they want to learn more about you, where can they find you, and kind of what services would you be able to point them to as well?
Well, I would love to gift anyone that's listening, Vic, if with your permission, I've got a free training coming up. So
Absolutely.
if anyone resonates and would like to connect and come into my world, I've got a free training that's going to be happening really soon. Oh, it's 111 as we're recording this. I I do have to share as well. I'm so sorry. I'm actually late for another meeting. I've got like 3 minutes. So, but
Okay,
that's
we'll
okay.
be quick.
Um, so if anyone who is looking to write a book or is curious about my world, there is a free training I've got coming up. I'll share the link with your
Hmm.
permission, Vic, and I would love
Yes,
to share
please.
that. And you can
Absolutely.
also connect with me on Instagram. So that's kind of where I mainly hang out. So my
Hmm.
handle is book_doula,
Hmm.
DOULA_AU. So
Amazing. We'll get that linked up. And yeah, thank you so much for your generosity, for sharing your time, for coming on. And we'll link all the details below. Make sure you jump into Vanessa's training. I'll definitely be looking at it. exciting.
Yay!
And it's been a privilege and an honor. And I'm conscious that you've got a hard close. So thank you for being here. I won't hold you up any longer, but I appreciate you and your presence and your energy.
Thank you so much, Vic. Thank you for having me on the show. You're such a beautiful soul. And oh man, anyone that's working with you is so lucky. And like, jump ship. That's what I
Thank you.
said.
It's coming. It's coming. Like there's a
Oh
plan.
no, I didn't mean you. I mean anyone that's listening, just jump ship. Get your support.
Oh, thank you. Sorry, I thought you were telling me to get out of corporate. You see, yeah, it's like you hear what you want to hear. But yes, jump ship, get the support that you need, whether it's with Vanessa, whether it's with myself or someone else in your life. You know, I'm a big advocate for support can come in many different ways. So find your person, because when you do, it's life-changing.
Absolutely. Absolutely. All right, beautiful soul.
Amazing. Okay. Wow. What an amazing episode. I feel like this episode, to be honest, was one of the ones that I have recorded, and never have I ever had so many full body, clairsentient situations going on. So like I was just getting goosebumps through and through and through, which is just I guess put two intuitives in a meeting together or a podcast recording, and that's what you're going to get, which, to be honest, I'm just going to take as a reminder that a lot of what you've just heard is really such a capital T truth and a remembrance of who you are, because you have so much within you that maybe you can already see or maybe not, but you are limitless potential. You are already perfect as you are. You are more than enough. And you have a story in you that is waiting to be told. Whether you want that to be told to more people or you just want to write it and get it out of your system. I personally find writing such a healing creative modality, because it gets everything that's swirling through your little unconscious mind out into paper, and it actually frees up space for more creativity and for more ideas to flow through. And you know, that quote that Vanessa shared by Seth Godin of the most influential book you're ever going to read is the one that you are going to write yourself rings so truly. And honestly, I'm going to take it as like a little nudge from the universe for myself, because I know I've been procrastinating writing my book for counting on about 4 to 5 years now. The nudge has been coming for a little while. So I'm going to take a little bit of a dose of my own advice and just start and see what flows through, because creativity truly is a practice. You know, that is a big reason why there is this thing called writer's block, or for artists or musicians, you know, this sort of block or trying to be too perfect, etc. And that was a big hurdle for me that I had to overcome with coming back to the piano, as an example. And so I would invite you to try that out as well. You know, just give yourself the opportunity in whatever modality comes to you, whether it's through art, music, writing, poetry, singing, dance, embodiment, you know, depending on what floats your boat, you get to play, you get to be creative. And it is truly through that creativity that you actually become more productive, because you balance the hemispheres of your brain and you tap into your right brain, which all of a sudden awakens more creative problem solving, more critical thinking skills. Like, you know, so if you've got any stories swirling in your head around like, I don't have time for this because I need to clear my inbox, no, you get to tap into this. It is all part of the process. And some of my kind of final reflections are just around the big leaps that we all make in life. You know, Vanessa had such a powerful story to tell where there were a lot of big leaps she had to make, and they were all identity level shifts. And if you are someone who's on the precipice of making a change in your life, and you're kind of in that, you know, that liminal space where like the nudge, the whisper's coming, but you're still in your stuff and you're still in your head. And it's like, oh, but it's not safe, or it doesn't make sense. It's not the logical thing to do. What are they going to think, etc. Let this be your little nudge to take the leap. whatever that looks like for you, because know that if you are getting this insight, if you are getting the nudge, it is there for a reason. And trust that when you take the step, the net will appear. I know it is such a cliche saying, but it is true. Like, leap and the net will appear. And of course, make that decision as an informed choice. Structure is so sexy. Structure is so supportive. Just as, Vanessa shared, structure is so cool to let creativity flow in books. So is structure also super supportive to let creativity flow in life. So if there is that nudge that you want to pursue and you're a little bit unclear on how to do that, hey, just reach out. This is literally what I do with my people, with my students. It's creating the structure, systems, tools, and processes in place that help you manifest the ideas, the biggest goals, dreams that you have for your life and the future of your family into reality. Because otherwise, it's those things that you really want to do, like that month-long sabbatical, or, the marathon, or the hike up Mount Everest, or whatever else it is. That's like those bucket list items that always tend to be the first ones to fall off for other priorities that actually aren't meant to be priorities in the first place. So if there's anything you take away from today's episode, just let it be what Vanessa shared. Just be you. You're perfect exactly as you are. And you are doing exactly what you need to do simply by being. Thank you so much for listening to this week's episode. It's been a pleasure to bring Vanessa to you. I hope that you check out her work, check out her upcoming free training. Make sure to give her a follow on the grams. And if you are someone like me who's sitting on a couple of books inside you, she might be your perfect person and guide to help through that journey. Bye for now. If you're a high performer or entrepreneur who's got big dreams and you've developed strategies to get you closer to those dreams, but you feel like there are also parts of you self-sabotaging your success, I built something just for you. It is my signature Achievement Archetypes quiz that is absolutely free, takes less than 2 minutes, and it will give you instant feedback as to where your Achilles heel is. That is your natural self-sabotaging behavior when it comes to productivity, planning, efficiency, and organization. And it gives you your next right step and the solution you didn't know you needed. You'll find the link in the show notes just below. Make sure you find your achievement archetype and let me know what it is. As a fellow achiever, I will be the first to put my hand up that I have now mastered my Achilles heel, and I can't wait for you to do the same. The views and opinions expressed by Guest on Resonance are their own and do not necessarily reflect the views of me, Viktoria Levenberg, Live in Health, or anyone working within the Live in Health brand. This space welcomes a diversity of ideas, experiences, and stories, and part of Resonance is learning to take what aligns and gently leaving the rest. Also, while I am a national board certified health and wellness coach and deeply passionate about well-being, this podcast is intended for educational and inspirational purposes only. Resonance does not substitute personalized medical, psychological, or therapeutic advice. Always seek guidance from qualified professionals for any physical, emotional, or mental health concerns.